Our whole universe was in a hot, dense state that nearly 14 billion years ago expanded.
Standing on the topmost pedestal of American television, The Big Bang Theory towers over every other sitcom, both in popularity and followership. With a success that could only be rivaled by the success of shows like Friends, The Big Bang Theory is the epitome of American comedy series. But why did the show end abruptly after season 12? Was there a sort of drama brewing among the beloved characters, or was the decision to move on based on mutual understanding? Find out in this video as we explore The Big Bang Theory show, character, and the end of The Big Bang show. The rise of The Big Bang Theory. Back in 2007, two of Hollywood's most talented writers, Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady, unveiled their latest creation to the world. September 24, 2007 was a day that will remain forever etched in the history of American television, as the first episode of The Big Bang Theory aired on CBS. 12 seasons and 279 episodes later, the sitcom has become a household name, known and loved by everyone. But at the time, the decision to go ahead with the production of this series was a huge risk. You see, back in the day, there was a huge concern as to whether a show that followed the daily lives of a couple of brilliant scientists would be appealing to the American populace. Television was supposed to be about fun and love triangles and superheroes, not rocket scientists trying to navigate the intricacies of everyday living. But thankfully, the witty comedy,
I'm not Sheldon, I'm the Flash.
Probably still live with my mom.
and the stark contrast between some of the characters created a symphony that captivated the heart of every viewer from the very first episode. By the time the show ended in 2019, each viewer had become a part of the Pasadena crew, as the emotional attachment to the show had transcended ordinary fandom to a cult following. From the characters to the plot, everything blended together in perfect harmony, creating an unforgettable experience for the viewers in every episode. But the big question that continues to linger is, what exactly made The Big Bang Theory so famous? Was it the brilliant plot and quirky dialogues?
The ancient Greeks, through Isaac Newton to Niels Bohr to Erwin Schrödinger to the Dutch researchers that Leonard is currently ripping off.
Or was it the characters and the amazing superstars that brought them to life?
And now I'm going to the Grand Canyon to scream in frustration. I'm back.
The plot itself is as unique as the characters that played it out on the screen. The show is set in Pasadena, California, and it takes us through the daily lives and adventures of 5 major characters living in Pasadena, California. The team of misfits was led by Sheldon Cooper, played by Jim Parsons, who was a brilliant physicist and very socially awkward. His witty humor, mixed with his undeniable brilliance, became the force that cemented his place as one of the most beloved and relatable characters in television history. Then there's Leonard Hofstadter, another brilliant physicist, whose intellectual prowess can only be compared to the humorous undertone in every word that seems to contrast the stereotypical view the society portrays about geeks. The two share an apartment and are also co-workers at Caltech. So basically, their lives are intertwined in every way possible. Their lives take a huge turn when they meet Penny, played by Kaylee Cuoco, a waitress and aspiring actress who lives just across the hall. You will admit that she's a pretty stark contrast between the two friends. While they seem to be out of touch with the realities of the outside world, beyond equations and inventions, Penny was socially active and understood the ways of the real world better than them. In spite of this obvious difference, the three fall fast into a never-ending friendship that became one of the major nuances that made the show famous. Other major characters include Leonard and Sheldon's co-worker and socially awkward friend Howard Wolowitz, a character that was played by Simon Helberg, and astrophysicist Raj Koothrappali, played by Kunal Nayar. Each of these actors embodied their role and eventually became inseparable from their characters. You know how Robert Downey Jr. will always be Iron Man and Daniel Radcliffe will always be Harry Potter. In the same sense, these brilliant actors have become interconnected with the very characters that immortalized them. In their own little way, each of these characters contributed to its eventual success, despite a rocky start. Sheldon Cooper, the heart and soul of The Big Bang Theory. Perhaps the most iconic character from The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper encompasses everything that the show represents.
I suggest rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock.
There is no way we are going to talk about The Big Bang Theory without paying homage to the almighty Sheldon Cooper, a brilliant scientist and prodigy whose quirky character brought us many laughs and many more unforgettable moments.
Penny.
Played by one of the most talented actors in Hollywood, Jim Parsons, Sheldon is a senior theoretical physicist at the California Institute of Technology, Caltech, and is probably one of the smartest people you've ever met.
You can start sorting protons and neutrons while I build carbon atoms.
His 187 IQ level is only rivaled by the huge chip on his shoulder. Unlike many geniuses of the past, Sheldon is nothing close to humble. As a matter of fact, his highly idiosyncratic personality, as well as a general lack of empathy for anybody, is one of the reasons many people fell in love with his character.
This mind is capable of advanced multitasking.
He is also effortlessly funny and witty, and if you're a big fan of the show, you've probably got your favorite Sheldon Cooper line popping up in your head right now. But there's something quite peculiar about this guy. Even though he often employs sarcasm and irony when talking to other people, he seems to be unable to recognize them in other people. Simply put, he takes things way too literally, that the joke sometimes flies over his head. This adds to the list of things that made many people fall in love with his character. But this doesn't come as a surprise, as Jim Parsons, who played the character, has been known for his perfect delivery and startlingly good acting skills. As a matter of fact, when Parsons auditioned for the role, he was said to be so impressive that he had to re-audition in order to make sure that he didn't just get lucky the first time. So, what do you get when you combine a perfectly written character with an actor who seemed to have been born for the role? You get a perfectly executed role like that of Sheldon Cooper, capable of single-handedly changing the course of a series or movie. For his portrayal of Sheldon Cooper, Jim Parsons raked in awards from every corner. He won 4 Primetime Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe Award, a TCA Award, and 2 Critics' Choice Television Awards, all rewards for his outstanding depiction of the iconic character. But inasmuch as Sheldon Cooper brought so much life and intrigue to the show, he cannot be solely credited for the success of the show. There were a couple more people who also warmed their way into our hearts from the TV screens. Leonard Hofstadter. You will remember him by his characteristic black, thick-framed glasses.
My name. It has nerd in it. Leonard.
And the low-cut black Converse All-Stars sneakers. Or maybe it's his wide array of pastel hoodies, or sometimes the neutral-colored sweat jackets, or better still, a combination of the two. His name is Leonard Hofstadter, a character played by Johnny Galecki, who gave the character the kind of depth that it required. In the series, Leonard is an experimental physicist who was originally from New Jersey and graduated from Princeton University before moving to California. Along with his best friend and roommate Sheldon Cooper, Leonard works at Caltech as an experimental physicist, mainly working with lasers. What makes Leonard peculiar is that in spite of the fact that he is very much a geek as the rest of his friends, he seems to be the most socially aware of all of them. He fits in perfectly in social circles, can easily talk to girls without coming off as creepy, and he doesn't really like being recognized as a geek. Although his extensive collection of basic geek stuffs, including many Star Wars-themed hygiene products, a prop of the One Ring, Star Trek, and the uniform of the officers in Star Trek, The Next Generation, and an expansive Superman comic book collection, will beg to differ. Although he's pretty reasonable and friendly, he also has the tendency to occasionally demonstrate a mean streak. Just like Sheldon, the brilliant scientist sometimes tends towards unapologetic meanness, even at the expense of his friends sometimes. Remember when he deliberately triggered Sheldon's obsessive-compulsive problems? Or how he constantly mocks Howard and Raj whenever they slip up? Or maybe it's his snarky remarks towards Penny whenever her commitment issues come up.
Yeah, I know. I'm a total bitch.
I'm not saying that.
Well, I am.
Fine, you win, you're a bitch.
But that's not the only thing that immortalized this character. His emotional attachment to Penny, who later became his wife during the course of the series, added another layer to the plot that played a huge role in taking the series from a tight spot at one point. We'll get into this much later in the video, so make sure you stick around. Speaking of Penny, one of Leonard's obvious flaws in the show was jealousy. This was especially evident when it came to Penny, the beautiful young woman who had been the subject of his affection from the very first episode. He would be so uncomfortable whenever Penny hung out with other men, so much so that he couldn't hide it. Remember that time he tried to scare off an English college student Penny was working on a project with just because she commented about liking his accent? Ironically, the ensuing drama eventually led Penny to declare his love for Leonard, so all is fair in love and war, right? From his lactose intolerance to the inseparable bond that held him and the rest of the gang, especially Sheldon, who he seemed to understand better than anyone else. Everything about this character cemented his place in the hearts of every American who tuned in to catch a glimpse of the Pasadena crew. Penny, the lead female character. Then, of course, there's Penny, played by actress Kaylee Cuoco.
Oh, hi.
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 Although she's basically very, very different from her neighbors due to the lack of advanced education, she makes up for this in her social awareness, which admittedly the guys struggle with a lot. Penny lives just down the hall from Sheldon and Leonard and is a budding actress whose Hollywood dreams were only surpassed by her unparalleled beauty. Her outgoing personality and social aptitude notwithstanding, she forms a formidable bond with the male characters of the show and even became the love interest of one of them. This journey of emotional attachment and detachment culminated in a marriage between the two at the start of the 9th season. Here's something you may not know about this show though. In the original pilot that was eventually dropped, the female lead was named Katie and was supposed to be a street-hardened, tough-as-a-nail woman who had a vulnerable interior. The role was initially played by Amanda Walsh, but the test audiences didn't really like the character. According to the reviews, Katie came off as too mean, and the character was promptly rewritten. The role was recast, and several Hollywood heavyweights were considered, including Marissa Tomei, Tara Reid, and Elizabeth Berkley. Luckily, Kaylee Cuoco made the cut, and you will agree that there's nobody more perfect for that role than Kaylee. Although at the start of the show, she was portrayed as a simple young woman, way out of Leonards' league. But as the series progressed, the character evolved into a more complex individual with high social skills, emotional intelligence, and work ethic. Originally from Nebraska, Penny is characterized by her full confidence in pseudoscientific concepts including horoscopes, psychics, and voodoo, for which the guys mock her endlessly. Together, these three main characters, along with Stuart Bloom, played by Kevin Sussman, Bernadette Rostenkowski-Wolowitz, played by Melissa Rauch, Amy Farrah Fowler, played by Mayim Bialik, Howard Wolowitz, played by Simon Helberg, and of course Raj Koothrappali, played by Kunal Nayyar, brought the shows to unimaginable heights throughout the course of its airing. But as you would expect, this massive success didn't come with several challenges. Did you know that Jim Parsons believed that the pilot was going to receive a terrible reception? As a matter of fact, many people didn't expect this show to do that well, which was evident from the uncertain nature of its early days. A rocky start. In a world where Netflix shows have taken center stage, The Big Bang Theory has set itself apart. Despite being an old-fashioned, multi-camera comedy about 4 nerdy men and the 3 women who tolerate them, it rose from its humble beginnings to becoming the #1 television show in the United States. Not only that, it also became the highest-rated sitcom, since Friends broke the heart of many adoring fans and signed off in 2004. But at the very start of the show, The Big Bang Theory faced a huge challenge due to its placement. If you're like most American families, then your Monday nights are usually reserved for the NFL. So you might understand why airing The Big Bang Theory on Mondays was a huge setback for the show. This was their first baby step, and it was already shaky. But the show was too good to be ignored. As the show began to catch the attention of people across America, the quirky characters of Sheldon, Leonard, Penny, and their many other friends began to catch everyone's eye, and soon, The Big Bang Theory received the biggest move of its history, which absolutely altered the course of the series. Without this move, it is unlikely that the show would have been the success that it turned out to be. You will agree that CBS is inarguably the #1 television network in America, boasting of an average weekly audience of up to 12 million. So when such a massive network decides to move a show to Thursday nights, you know the show must have shown so much potential. You see, in broadcasting, Thursday nights are usually the most important nights for advertisers. The slots are usually reserved for the best shows. So, after assessing The Big Bang Theory and realizing the potential it carried, the big names at CBS decided to move the programming to Thursday. This brought even more popularity to the show, sending it skyrocketing for the very stars it was made for. The most iconic moments from The Big Bang Theory. Through the many dramas, crazy adventures, emotional moments, and educational scenes that made The Big Bang Theory a household name, there are a couple of scenes that remain forever etched in the hearts of everyone. If you're a true fan of the series, then these moments should take you on a nostalgic journey back to the first time you saw some of these episodes. Since we're exploring everyone's favorite show, it would be unfair to proceed without taking a glimpse back at some of the iconic scenes that made the show famous. Here's a couple for your viewing pleasure, Penny and Leonard's first kiss. The budding romance between Penny and Leonard was one of the defining features of the series. Remember when Sheldon and Leonard first set their eyes on Penny? It was love at first sight, or so it seems.
Oh, hi.
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 For the longest time, the two friends found themselves in an unspoken competition for Penny's attention. But at the end of the day, Leonard won, and the emotional connection between the two became a major talking point for the fans. Will they ever date? Will she fall in love with him? Will he ever tell her how he feels? Fans raise these questions every single episode, as the two contrasting individuals seem to possess an undeniable chemistry. Even though Penny was basically dim-witted and simplistic in her view of life, a massive contrast to the ingenious Leonard, their relationship became a major feature of the series and still remains one of the most compelling moments in the history of the Big Bang Theory. So, remember when the way they had their first kiss? In case you've forgotten, let us take you back to episode 6, titled The Middle-earth Paradigm. After watching her jock ex-boyfriend almost get into a fight with Leonard at her Halloween party, Penny decides to head over to Leonard's apartment.
Hey, Leonard.
Hi, Penny.
Hey, just wanted to make sure you're okay.
And kisses him for the first time. This began the dynamics of leaving everybody guessing whether they would become a thing or not. This iconic scene was a kind of climax for many who had been observing the obvious chemistry between the two, or who doesn't like it when their favorite characters fall in love with each other. The first party at Penny's. Remember when the guys attended their first Halloween party at Penny's in season 1? Those iconic moments showed the viewers that the unapologetic nerdiness of the characters would end up defining the show. We don't know which was more hilarious. Sheldon's frustration at the party guests, who didn't seem to understand his Doppler effect costume.
Given the reaction to my costume, this party is a scathing indictment of the American education system.
You're a zebra, right?
Yet another child left behind.
Or the fact that Leonard continued yelling,
That's how we roll in the Shire.
in his Frodo costume after kissing Penny. Every fan of the show will agree that this was one of the many moments that won our hearts over. The Soft Kitty song. Here's something you probably know by heart. If you're a fan of The Big Bang Theory, the Soft Kitty song. Our ears were first blessed with the sweet melodies in episode 11 of the first season.
Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur.
After falling ill and being bedridden for days, Sheldon asks Penny to sing him the lullaby.
Can you sing Soft Kitty?
Although she is pretty hesitant at first, Penny eventually sings the song, after learning that Sheldon's mother used to sing him the same song every time he was sick.
Soft kitty, warm kitty.
Little ball of fur.
This emotional bonding moment laid the foundation for a unique friendship that endured throughout the show. Throughout the rest of the series, the Soft Kitty song makes several appearances, including the episode where Leonard and Penny sing it to a sleeping Sheldon.
Can't try to tell a grown man to go to sleep.
Soft kitty, warm kitty.
Little ball of fur.
Are you even a true fan if you're not singing the song right now? Sheldon and Penny meet Stan Lee at his house. Over the years, The Big Bang Theory has featured cameos from many of your favorite stars. From Judy Greer to Stephen Hawking, yes, the real one, to Neil deGrasse Tyson. This show boasts of a long list of celebrity guests featured on certain episodes. But who could forget episode 16 of the 3rd season, when the late comic book legend Stan Lee made an appearance on the show?
Yeah.
After getting a ticket, Sheldon winds up in traffic court, missing his chance to meet the esteemed Marvel Comics creator. But he remains undeterred by this failure and decides to show up at his house along with Penny. Fans of the show recall how iconic this episode was, and in case you've never seen it, you'll have to watch it to find out.
A huge fan of yours, and he was supposed to meet you the other day at the comic book store, but he kind of ended up in jail.
No spoilers here. Amy's first scene. For the entire first 3 seasons, nobody would have ever thought Sheldon Cooper would eventually find his soulmate. So, when Howard and Raj decided to set him up on a date for their own amusement, viewers were ecstatic at the hilarious scenes that were about to play out. But to everyone's surprise, Amy Farrah Fowler, the girl in question, seemed to be everything Sheldon had ever dreamt of. The two hit it off on the spot, which was probably because they were very much alike in every sense of the word. They displayed similar idiosyncrasies and had similar aversions to social conventional ideas. Sheldon's mom's reverse psychology tactics. You will agree that one of the most beloved recurring characters in the series was Sheldon Cooper's mom, played by the ever-talented Laurie Metcalf. Although his son may have been a super genius, Mrs. Cooper proved that she was smarter than him when she used reverse psychology to mend his relationship with Amy. In episode 3 of season 4, the relationship between Sheldon and Amy hits the rocks after Amy remarks that his work is not as important as hers. In response, Sheldon adopts many cats to replace her, which didn't really go so well with his roommates. Fans remember the iconic moment when Mrs. Cooper came into the picture and convinced him to date Amy again, after claiming that she wasn't the right match for him. Of course, she knew her son would not back down from a challenge or the opportunity to prove people wrong, which was the plan in the first place. This scene is a fun reminder that no matter how smart you are, mothers always know best. The Prank Wars. Agreeably, if a full compilation of practical jokes and pranks played by Sheldon and the guys should be made, it would literally span for hours on end. Seriously, beyond their love for science, what solidified the friendships of the Pasadena crew was their practical jokes. But of all of them, one deserves a special mention. Remember in episode 7 of season 5, when Sheldon popped right out of the couch, scaring the living daylights out of Leonard, then yelling,
"Bazinga, punk, now we're even."
If this wasn't one of your favorite scenes, you should probably rewatch it. Penny's first I love you. Of all the relationships and entanglements on the show, Penny and Leonard probably had the strangest exchange. From the first kiss to the first time Penny tells Leonard she loved him, everything seems to be rooted in unpredictability. After 6 seasons, Penny finally admits that she was indeed in love with Leonard in episode 8.
Listen to me, you are the one I'm with. You know I love you, so will you please relax because you're driving me crazy?
As you would expect, this wasn't announced in a romantic candlelit scenery, but during a heated argument. Even with the circumstances surrounding the profession of love, it is hard to deny its sincerity and naturality. This emotional scene remains one of the most beloved moments from the series.
You know, that's the first time you ever said that you love me.
Yeah.
Which still continues to resonate with fans everywhere. Just in case we haven't checked out some of your favorite scenes, stay positive, because we still have a couple more to go. Maybe yours will be there, who knows? Sheldon and Amy's first kiss. Who would ever thought that Sheldon Cooper, a man who could not fathom the idea of holding hands, would win the heart of everyone by suddenly planting a kiss on his longtime girlfriend Amy Farrah during season 7. This was after Amy had revealed how disappointed she was that Sheldon was not willing to spend time with her during Valentine's. In the usual Sheldon Cooper fashion, he goes on a TED Talk, ranting on and on about the silliness of romance. To prove his point, he suddenly goes in for a quick smooch.
No kissing's romantic.
But it quickly turns into a much longer, more meaningful, deep kiss. Who could forget the look on everyone's face when that scene aired? Before we go on with the video, here's our subscribers' pick for today. Remember the episode with the alternate reality, where Penny tries to seduce Sheldon in the laundry room?
Hey, Sheldon.
From the very start of the conversation, it became more obvious that this genius physicist was pretty clueless when it came to picking out social clues. Even with the many sexual innuendos and nuances dropped by Penny, Sheldon remained ignorant of the advances being sent his way.
Almost as dirty as the dirty girl who's wearing them.
When he eventually acted like he understood what Penny was trying to say, he replied in the most Sheldon way possible, claiming that he was saving himself for someone special.
I'm saving myself for someone special.
This scene exemplified the serious antisocial behavior observed in some of the characters, which made them both lovable and respected. What is your favorite moment from The Big Bang Theory? Share with us in the comments. Now, let's get back to the video. Leonard's proposal. If there's anything every fan of The Big Bang Theory remembers, it is the countless failed proposal attempts by Leonard. At one point, it seemed as though the engagement would never happen, so fans weren't prepared for the shock in store in episode 23 of season 7. After realizing that fame wasn't exactly what she wanted, but a lifetime of happiness with Leonard, Penny finally decides that getting married is a practical idea.
We could get married.
to which Leonard agrees. But he catches everyone, including Penny, off guard, when suddenly he pulls out a ring, an actual ring this time around, from his wallet. This surprise proposal turned the otherwise anticlimactic adult discussion in the scene into one of the sweetest moments in the series.
Penny, will you marry me?
Sheldon and Amy wins the Nobel Prize in physics. After a pretty lengthy run, the series eventually came to a climax in an episode that saw Sheldon and Amy winning the Nobel Prize in physics for their discovery of super asymmetry, which they had worked on moments before their wedding. In many ways, this episode seems to be the crowning jewel of the series. It exemplified the massive heights both the characters and the actors and actresses that played them had reached through the course of the many seasons. The scenes remain some of the most unforgettable moments in the series and still evoke some emotions every time you binge watch it again. From Amy's speech, encouraging little girls to study whatever they wanted, to Sheldon's somewhat emotional speech, everything mirrored the reality of the lives of the stars that played the roles we have come to know and love. The end of the Big Bang Theory. At this point in the video, you may begin to ask yourself, if the show was so good, why did it have to end then? Was it the network that decided it was time to move on to bigger things? Or was it the decision of the cast to finally draw a curtain after 12 seasons? Unfortunately, the latter seems to be the case. The first thing we may need to establish is that the show was never canceled. Instead, it ended because of one man, Jim Parsons. You see, after the 12th season, it seems Jim Parsons decided not to renew his contract for season 13, even though he stood to make about $50 million if he stayed. So why did he decide to break the hearts of millions of adoring fans worldwide? According to The Star, even though he loved embodying the role of Sheldon Cooper, he eventually grew exhausted from juggling the show with his other acting commitments. At this time, Parsons was already 46 years old, so he simply didn't want to make the most of his acting career and his life while he still could. But it wasn't just Parsons that decided maybe it was time to end. Before the announcement was even made, Galecki also aired a similar sentiment. According to him, he felt everyone in the Big Bang Theory cast was already comfortable with wrapping up the show after 12 seasons. Unfortunately, there is no show without Jim Parsons, and the Big Bang Theory had to come to an end. Regardless of this fact, fans are still grateful to have been blessed with such a high level of artistic excellence over the years, and The Big Bang Theory remains one of the most idolized and influential TV series in the history of American television. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.